Hi viewers, thank you for joining us on this wonderful episode on your pilot diary. This is the very first edition of this show, and as we all know, I intend to meet a lot of professionals in the aviation sector, from captains to first officers to cadet pilots to student pilots to flight instructors, and let them share with us their experience so that we can in turn inspire a lot of people. And I'm so glad today on this very first episode I have someone that's like a big brother, a friend, an inspiration, and it's gonna be nice. And I want you to stay tuned to the end because it's gonna be rich. So, Captain, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Harrison.
We are glad to host this show. It's gonna be a time that you're gonna share with us your experience, so that in the return we can get the youth out there, learn something, and even to keep on following their dreams. So first, you just tell us a brief about yourself, yeah, for the viewers to know exactly who you are.
Okay, thank you, Harrison, for having me. My name is Captain uh, Nigeria. I am a pilot. I fly for Rwanda. You can also fly 737. Um, just a brief history. I went to when I studied in South Africa
Okay.
for my flight training. And after that, I came out from flying school, and that was for about a year in 2007, 2008. I joined Arik Air in 2010, and I flew for Arik Air until 2014, 15. Then I went to fly for Askai, and I flew for Askai from 15, 16 to 17, and then I joined Rwanda in 2017 and 2018.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So if I guess means you've been with Rwanda for almost 9 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. You've flown with Oscar, you've flown with Arik Air and Rwanda. That's so rich. You're kind of person that so many of us really want to be. So I would like to know, uh, during your flight school, like how is it? How do you see flight school, the time that you schooled, and what we have now actually in terms of the cost, in terms of the facilities? Do you think with time all of these have improved?
Yes. So there are positives and there are negatives. I'm going to try to be as honest as possible with you. Um, the positive is that because of the age and time that we have come to be in, there's a lot of development in the type of facilities
Okay.
you are used. Most of the younger pilots are using now to train. However, with automation comes a bit of laxity. What I mean is, the more automation you have, the more pilots are dependent on this equipment, which itself is not completely a bad thing, but we all need to be careful because when when the pilot is too dependent on automation, the the need to the need to look for other methods to solve a problem becomes a bit more shallow.
Yeah, that's true.
So when the automation goes out, these pilots sometimes seem lost because the dependency on automation is great.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, so to answer your question directly, yes, there are more facilities and there are better facilities now for training, which also enhances training, which is so the positive is
The
that
positive side.
it enhances and makes training more faster and efficient.
Oh, thank you. And then talking about the costs, how do you think the cost has varies from the time you schooled and what we have now actually?
I think the cost has, yes, I think that there has been a variation. However, I think that the variation is just it's very simple. Everything happens to tailor to the needs the of the industry. So a few variations are here. For example, when we were in school, we used to do courses mostly written exams.
Okay.
But now is most of these courses are done
Alright.
via the internet,
That's
via
true.
computers, and
That's
all of
true.
that. And because the world is trying to be more efficient, so the variation, they've got their variations, but it's not so.
Okay.
It's not
Not
so.
big.
It's not so big.
Okay.
Not so different.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And you know, each time we see you guys at the airport, everybody's like, wow, 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 wow. You guys are the spotlight of the of everything.
Mm.
So I want to know, we have first officers and we have captains.
Mm.
So can you just tell us some differences between the first officer and the captain? Because some people just know, okay, that's a pilot, and some people don't know the difference between who is a pilot and who is a first officer and what they actually do. And just give us some few differences in terms of job description.
Thank you, Harris. This is a very interesting topic, and I think we can use this platform to answer this question once and for all. The thing about it is that there are so many ranks to piloting, so we'll start from the lowest. The lowest actually is a training cadet.
Okay.
A training cadet. You can identify him by they normally wear just a black patch on their shoulder. Okay. We have what you now call, so there is a training cadet, and then there is a cadet pilot.
Cadet pilot. Okay.
Okay. So, for example, when an airline employs a pilot to train them, he is a training or a trainee cadet. Oh,
okay. So in that case, he have one strip?
No, he just has a black patch.
Okay.
Then there's what you call a cadet pilot.
Okay.
That is a person who has finished his training, but now he's in the industry.
Okay.
He has joined the airline.
Okay. Yeah.
The other person is still in flying school, trying to join the airline. He's a training cadet. Then the cadet pilot is a pilot who has finished training.
Okay.
He's now in the airline.
Okay.
And there's a second officer.
Yeah.
Okay. Second officer is a person who has so different airlines categorize them differently. But a second officer normally is a person who has done his type rating, completed his type rating course, and also completed his line training course.
Okay.
Because we have what we call, but when you're finished from flying school, we don't just give you the aeroplane to fly.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we give you a type rating, which is it's a specific training for the type of aeroplane that you'll be flying.
Okay.
Pilots don't just fly any aeroplane they see. You have to be type rated to fly an aeroplane. So let me make it easy for your viewers who might not be pilots. Let us say you went to a driving school and you finished learning how to drive on a Toyota Corolla.
Okay.
But the company that you want to drive for, they have a Mack truck. You can't just walk into the Mack truck and drive the truck.
You must be trained.
You have to be trained how to drive a particular truck.
That's true.
Okay. So a training cadet is the person who is training in flying school on behest of the airline. When he's done, he's now incorporated into the airline and now becomes a cadet pilot. When he now does so while he's doing his type rating course, he's a cadet pilot.
Yes.
While he's doing his line training course, line training, just make it to make your viewers understand this. Line training is when you finish the type rating course, which is normally done on a simulator.
Yeah.
Then you now have to fly with a training instructor who will teach you how to fly real passengers, real cargo in real life. That's line training.
Yeah. Okay.
So that person is a cadet pilot. When he passes that line training course, which we call a checkout, he's now becomes a second officer. So second officer is the one that wears wears two stripes. Wears one stripe. Okay. Now, when you now finish, so while you fly, some companies say, okay, 0 to 500 hours, you're a second officer. 500 to 1,000 hours or 1,005. Some companies say, some companies do not really specify. You now become a first officer. Okay. So some companies give their pilots 2 stripes as a first officer.
Okay.
Some companies give their pilots 3 stripes, but the easiest to identify is 2 stripes.
Okay.
Okay, which makes you a second officer. Sorry, a first officer. Okay,
Yes.
so second officer is 1 stripe. First officer is 2 stripes. Okay. After you have done, after you've gotten it more than 1,500 hours, and then you've done a course called the Airline Transport Pilot License, called the ATPL, you are now called a senior first officer. And you now wear 3 stripes on your shoulder. A senior first officer's position is designed so that he's ready to become a captain at any time. Okay. So after 1,500 hours and you have your ATPL license like we just discussed, you now become a senior first officer. And then when you become a captain, you now wear 4 stripes. Some companies give their senior first officers, so for companies who give their first officers 3 stripes, you might just mention that.
Yeah.
The senior first officers now have three big stripes and 1 tiny stripe to make it look like it's.
I've never noticed that.
Yes. So if you so for your viewers, if you walk in, if you go somewhere and you see somebody has 3 big stripes with 1 small stripe, he's a senior first officer. If you also see a person wearing 3 stripes, he's also a senior first officer, depending on the company. But I would suggest if you see somebody with 3 stripes, just call him a first officer. That's easier.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Alice. Okay, now I have a question. Okay, imagine I'm in a flight school.
Mhm.
When I get my PPL,
Mhm.
I'm given 2 stripes.
Mhm.
Then maybe when I'm done my CPA, my instrument ratings,
Mhm.
I'm given 3 stripes. Meanwhile, I'm not yet in an airline.
Yes. So I'm giving you this. So this conversation is based on airline flying.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
When you are still in flying school, you are in more of a kindergarten setup. So we don't really consider the ranking
Okay.
so
Okay.
much there. But when you come into the airline, that's how you'll be introduced
Okay.
into it. So even if you get 3 stripes in the flying school, when you come to the airline, they'll give you
Okay.
they'll give you 1 stripe.
Okay, that's really
Start with
explicit. Thank you so much. So coming to the duties of a captain and that of a first officer, what are the differences? What are the things that the captain does that the first officer will not do?
Okay. So the captain's job is basically the decision maker for the operation.
Okay.
So the captain and the first officer are trained on basically the same thing: the knowledge of the aeroplane, the train how to fly the aeroplane, and all of that. But the captain's job is to make the final decision for the operation of the flight. I'll give you an example. A captain decides, for example, how much fuel the aeroplane should have. A captain can decide how to load the aeroplane. The captain can decide when to depart, when not to depart. So basic decisions are made by the captain. However, when it comes to flying the aeroplane, when it comes to system knowledge of the aeroplane, knowledge of the aeroplane generally, both captain and first officers have the same knowledge, should have the same knowledge. However, most captains, because of their years in the experience, have more experience. But knowledge-wise, the first officer and the captain should be on the same level. But the captain's main, to answer your question, the captain's main job is to make the final decision.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you. So, as a captain, what are some of the challenges that you face on the job, like real life challenges that you face?
Okay, so flying is. I always tell people that if you want to fly aeroplanes, you have to be very dynamic and objective in your in your thought process. And I say that to say this, that um, starting from just getting the flight, there's so many things that you have to start preparing for. Okay, the country you're going to is already a challenge by itself, because you have to make sure that the country is accessible to the airline. You have to make sure that the weather is good. So you have to check the weather. You have to check the airports where you're going to. So you can't just wake up and go.
Yeah.
So from getting the flight, you have to. So the first challenge is having a deep knowledge and understanding of where am I going to. Okay, so first of all, you have to get your equipment out and make sure that you know where you're going to. Secondly is what kind of crew am I flying with? Okay, am I flying with new people? Am I flying with experienced people? So some people would believe, I'm sure, that the more experienced a crew is, the easier it is to fly. No, funny enough, it's not like that. The more experienced the crew is, means that there is a higher possibility of complacency.
That's true.
So you have to even be more careful when you fly with. One of the most dangerous crashes we've had in the world, where two airplanes collided with each other, was done by the head of training of an airline, of KLM.
Yeah, the plane crash.
Yes. The captain in charge was actually the director, the head of training. So you would imagine that this head of training is the most senior guy in this place, so he should know. But yeah. So I'm saying this for soon-to-be pilots. When you get into a cockpit with a very experienced person, please be more vigilant. It might even be There was a crash that happened where the two experienced captains, very experienced senior captains, who had been flying for a very long time, and the first officer was on the jump seat, and they crashed because the first officer believed that they knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that is to portray the point that another challenge is your crew setup. The more experienced they are, the more you have to be very aware about what's happening. Also, the least experienced they are, you also have to be very aware of what's happening around you.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're flying with a brand new captain on maybe the aeroplane you're flying with, you have to be very aware. If you're also flying with a very experienced captain on the aeroplane you're flying with, you also have to be very aware. So you always have to strike that balance. So the challenge is the crew. Number 3 is when you get to the airport, you need to get documentation. Most of the department that handles the documentation is called the Operation Control Center, which we call the OCC. They control a lot of things, so there's a lot of work to do. And in the Operation Control Center, we have what you call the dispatchers, who dispatch the aeroplane. They're called dispatchers because their job is to make the aeroplane fly. And they have so many aeroplanes. Most of them are working with Airbuses, 737s, and these are all different specific airplanes, right? So it can be very confusing. And for example, I've had a case where I was given a -8 to go to Dubai. That was a mistake.
Wow.
So what happens is you have to also, so that's another challenge, to make sure that your documentations are correct and they are fit for purpose. You cannot also just say, okay, once again, an experienced dispatcher is as dangerous as a brand new dispatcher. So you can't say, this guy has been here for 30 years, what he's doing. You could actually make a mistake because he's a human being. So that's another challenge you have to deal with. I think the fourth challenge is the aeroplane you're flying with. Okay? Aeroplanes can look beautiful and clean on the outside, but be very sick on the inside. So the many things you have to think consider. Where did it fly to last? We have documents that tell us what the airplane has been doing. So it's very expedient to check those documents are all pointing to the right direction. You cannot say, okay, it looks nice and shiny, it's fine. Okay. And I always tell pilots, especially new pilots who are just joining the business, please, the last we have what you call the technical logs, where you
Okay.
log all the operating that happened to the aeroplane. Technical log is a gossip. It can tell you what has happened.
Okay. Yeah.
So read it and make sure that you are happy with what you're seeing.
Okay.
And please, once again, if something is not right and you are not convinced, call, ask, inquire before you get into the air. Okay. So that's the fourth one. I think the fifth one is security. So many things happen around the aeroplane, and you have to just be security conscious of what's happening. Okay. So many moving parts.
Yeah.
People loading the aeroplane, filling the
Yeah.
aeroplane, maintaining it. So everything is happening around you. So always keep yourself abreast of what is happening around the aeroplane. So that's another challenge that we have. And I think the last challenge second to the last challenge is passengers. You have good ones, you have bad ones, you have stressful ones.
The ones that are drunk.
Yes. So you have to also know. And aviation is a service-based industry. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you have to give good service and manage people properly. Even cargo.
Yeah.
You could also have dangerous cargo. We have that already it's a whole topic by itself. So you have dangerous cargo, which you also have to manage properly. For example, you can carry batteries with some other items and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can carry liquid with some other things. So those are challenges you have to keep. I'll give you an example of a cargo problem we've had before. We normally put live animals in the front side of the cargo hold. The cargo hold for viewers is basically the boot of the aeroplane,
Okay.
which is supposed to be so the forward boot, if you like, the forward boot is where has like a ventilation compartment that allows animals that we
Okay.
put in the boot
Okay.
breathe.
Okay. Like it's oxygenated.
Yes. So the system allows air to flow into that side to make animals breathe. So we put animals there so they can breathe and the back boot has nothing like that. And when you are at 40,000 feet, 35,000 feet, the temperature can go as low as minus 40 degrees.
Yeah.
The air that comes from the top of the aeroplane where we sit is warmed and brought into that area in the front,
Okay.
so that the warm air allows the animals to be alive.
Yeah.
The boot does not have that space. The back does not have the
Oh
place.
wow.
So that anything there is
Yeah.
going to be turned to ice, right? Or going to be cold
Yeah.
at least. So a cargo handler, that's what we call them, that manage the bags, the handlers, put some dogs at the back of the aeroplane. So if you are taken, that dog would have died.
Yeah. That's true.
So there's another pressure. So you see how from passengers to cargo, it's all that. And then, of course, another thing that we worry about is air traffic control. And I'll tell you what I mean by air traffic control. Some air traffic some air controllers are not, English is not their first language. So aviation language is English, but some countries don't have English as a first language.
Yeah.
So they had to learn it. So because they learned it, sometimes it doesn't come fluently to them. So what happens is when you get a message from them, the way they are saying it might not be the way they want you to understand it. So so it's a big challenge. So once again, if you're not sure about something, ask a question. So that's how we solve that problem. And I think the last but not the least is the weather. You can have a nice sunny day. Everything is perfect. You can also have days where you come in and weather is really terrible. So people think that the rain is really the biggest deal. It's not. The rain is one of the easiest weather to fly in. The most tricky weather is when it's really hot, because when it's really hot, there's so much turbulence and it's difficult to land the aeroplane.
Yeah.
The winds are changing rapidly and all that. Another thing is when it's foggy. You can see the runway and then you don't see it after a while. So that's another challenge. But
Wow.
that's about it.
So tell me, as a captain, has there been a time that maybe you took off, or maybe you was to take off and you decided to abort the flight, or maybe to return back to the parking bay, or to do a turn in the air and go back to some ordinary airport? Have you faced this kind of real life situation that you have to make this decision?
Yes, I aborted the takeoff before. Funny enough, I aborted the takeoff because I was taking off and we had some chickens cross the runway. I'm not sure where they came from. So we had to abort the takeoff. Have I diverted? Yes, I've diverted before. I think we took off because somebody was sick and we had to come back to land. We took off one time and the gear for viewers, the tires refused to go back inside the aeroplane. So we had to also come back and land. Yes, we've had.
Wow.
So
Those are indeed real life challenges.
yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Captain, for this. So, what's your advice to some young people that maybe they want to be pilots, or someday they want to equally have this kind of stable career? What can you advise them?
Let me put it this way: don't go into aviation because you're looking for a job. It's the worst. It's the worst reason to fly. Don't go into aviation because of the shiny uniforms. It's one of the worst reasons to also fly. Because after a while, the uniform really means nothing.
Okay.
Aviation is one of the careers that you never can divorce. Okay? Immediately you become a pilot, it stays with you forever. It's like a marriage.
Yeah.
So, and it's very intoxicating. It's something that can just keep you, wanting more. So going to flying because you want to create something better for the next generation. So going to the business because you want to make it better for who is coming next to you. And I believe that if you're going to the business for that sole purpose, that okay, I want to go into this business, and you can decide what you want to do. So for example, you have joined the industry and you have decided to tell stories about the aviation industry. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're now looking, so people are looking to you to tell them a good story about the industry. Or what can I do to make the industry? You're telling your story. You're telling a story with the industry. So people go into the industry because they want to make it safer.
That's true.
So people go into the industry because they want to teach the next generation how to do it better. So people go to the industry because they believe that if I do this right, somebody else could pick up behind me and just make it a bit better. But there has to be a reason. Your reason is a good reason. You're telling a story. I joined the industry because I wanted to make it better.
Yeah.
So every time I meet a young person, I want to impact knowledge and I want to tell them about what they should do better. I want the next generation of pilots to be better than who I was. Okay. So what I'm challenging your viewers is don't just go into aviation because I'm looking for a job or I'm looking to I'm a pilot. No. Go into aviation and say to yourself, okay, what can I do here to make this just a bit better? No matter what it is, but even if it's just being known as the safest guy in the industry, go that when the first day you walk into a flying school, say to yourself, so for example, when you go to a flying school, you say to yourself, I'm here to tell a story. So whatever I do here, the story must be a good story.
That's true.
If you're going, and for guys that who want to go there because they want to make it safer, ask yourself, I'm here in this flying school and I want to be a pilot, but how do I make this thing safer? For you to make something safer, you first must be safe.
You first must be safe. That's it. Thank you so much. One last thing that I'm going to talk about right now is about flight schools. I know it's a whole topic on its own. People are looking for flight schools. Okay, some very good ones, but very costly. Some what can you say about flight schools in general?
Flight schools are very tricky, and I say that because there's a saying that the equipment does not make the pilots; the pilot makes the pilots. Okay. People that so there have been different debates. Can a good flying school make a good pilot, or is somebody it's a hardworking person that becomes a good pilot?
Mhm.
Well, I believe that a good flying school can shape a pilot,
Okay.
right? Uh, but what I've come to realize nowadays is that a lot of flying schools seem to pamper pilots, and I think they do that because of the amount of money that is needed to fly.
Okay.
Um, this is for people that are going are leaving flying schools. Pampering you is not helping you.
Yeah, that's true.
If you find a flying school who seems to pamper you, I think you should consider leaving that
Yeah.
flying school. And let me make it very clear what pampering is. Somebody demonstrates a maneuver to you. You know that what you did after he demonstrated it to you is not correct, but he lets it go. He's pampering you.
Mm.
Because in real life, when the maneuver is needed,
Yeah, you will not be able to perform it. Yeah, that's true.
so don't ever in your life. There's a saying that um, a calm sea has never made a good captain.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't ever in your life believe that, oh, because they're just rushing me along means that they like me. When you get into the air, there is no instructor, there's no daddy, there's no mommy, there's no auntie, uncle to save you. 150 passengers or 200 passengers or whatever you get to fly in your life are going to be depending on you. So if all through your training you have been moved along,
It's not easy.
when and challenge could come at any time. When challenges come, you might not be able to manage it. So please look for a flying school that you honestly know are working hard to get you. So to answer your question, what kind of flying school should you go? I would suggest a boarding flying school. A flying school with boarding facilities is a good idea because boarding helps you to be less distracted.
That's true.
Okay. However, not everybody can afford might want to go to a boarding flying school. I would suggest a flying school that has a structure, meaning that they have when they start, when they finish, and they have break time. So they have like a proper 1 week break and
Yeah.
all that. Avoid flying clubs.
Okay.
Okay, there are flying kind of flying. Avoid flying clubs. Flying clubs, they just enjoy
There's
themselves.
laxity.
Pick a flying school that people wear actual uniforms.
Okay.
Right. And pick a flying school. So I'm giving you key things that you should look for. Pick a flying school where there is proprietor, or that could be a director, it could be a chief of flying, whatever.
Yeah.
But there is somebody that you can report to. Pick a flying school that has a head of training, and pick a flying school that have instructors that actually you can actually speak to them at any time about whatever problems you have. Okay.
You know, let me cut it short. I have this fear in me for so many years now, because during my studies, I saw that the minimum hours that pilots, like from school, need to get into airlines is like 1,500. And now you see so many flight students always go for written for instructor. Then now so they start teaching in flight school. So I've always had this fear, like most of those instructors in those flight schools are just there looking for flight hours to go to. Yeah, and if it's the case, they might mess you up.
Yeah.
Because the more you're wasting your time, the more they're getting their own time.
Yeah.
So that's always been a fear that has always been in my head. I don't know how to take it out.
So that's why I said pick a flying school that has a chief flight instructor. A chief flight instructor is somebody that who is there, who is part of the organization.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes, most of the time, they are one and the same. But sometimes they're the owners of the school, the flying school. So they want their flying schools to work.
Mm.
But when you go to a flying school that has nothing like that,
You can't report to
you
anyone.
can't report to anybody. So pick a flying school that has a chief flight instructor. And a flying school like once again that has a proper structure, uniforms, everything, books. If there are schools like that,
Yeah.
they are actually academies. You go there, there's a uniform, there is this, there's all of that. There's a real structure. You go there, you meet people that have been training for the past 15 years, okay, 20 years. So look for such flying schools because they are more committed to train you properly.
That's true.
You know, it's cheaper to go to flying some new flying schools that are down the road, but like I said, so look for proper. In fact, if a flying school can tell you what your academic year would look like, that's perfect. So, for example, you know how when you go to a university, there's a published academic year,
Yeah.
and
The
structure,
curriculum
the curriculum,
Yeah.
exactly. That tells you exactly how things are going to go. If a festival can give you that, then you probably are looking at the right school,
Okay.
because these guys have sat down and designed the structure. In fact, some people even go as far as giving you a structure for different airlines.
Wow.
So I remember that when I was in flying school, I don't want to tell anybody's school here, but when I was in flying school, there was a school that the school I went to was structured to train Kenya Airways students.
Okay.
Okay. The school, another school down the road was structured to train Kenya Airways, South African Airlines, and British Airways students. Okay. There's a school in Dubai rather that is structured to just train only Emirates students. So if you go to that school, you're going to be trained as though you're going to work for Emirates.
I get it.
So you're going to be put. So you're going to be trained based on Emirates standards. So you find a school. So if you have a school that is structured, so for example, a school can say, okay, we have been contracted to train this airline, and that's a good. That looks like a good school. So try to avoid just walking to anybody's compound. Okay. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, that was really clear. All right, Captain, thank you very much. I'm grateful for this opportunity and all the knowledge that you've poured out. Viewers, thank you for staying tuned up to the end. If you're still new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe because a lot of more content will be coming up. Thank you for watching, and right now we'll be signing out. Meanwhile, see you in our next episode. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.